We're with Mary Cutrufello, and welcome to our show.
Thank you, Tom.
You know, I like to know the real history of Mary, the musical history, that is. Where you grew up and what kind of music did you like when you were growing up, and what do you play now?
Well, I was born and grew up in Connecticut, about an hour and 15 minutes away from New York City. So my early influences were probably Broadway show tunes and Bruce Springsteen, not necessarily in that order. And I graduated from college in 1991 and moved to Texas. I was intrigued by other kinds of music that I couldn't really hear enough of in the northeastern part of the country, and so I spent a bunch of time down there, about most of the decade of the 90s, playing country music and my own mix of that and the things that I learned in New England. And anymore, it's just kind of a little bit of all of it mixed together, because the older you get, the less important it is to be drawing lines.
I believe that. And you know, it's time to hear a tune right here from the Honky Tonk House Concert Series in Streetsboro, Ohio. Mary, I'd like to know about your CDs, and do you have a website that folks could get a hold of those CDs?
I do, Tom. It's marycutrufello.com.
Can you spell that for our listeners?
You know how the internet can be picky that way. It's marycutrufello.com.
I have it. I can't believe it. So tell us about those CDs you released in the past.
Well, there's a bunch of them. The very first one that I did was called Who to Love and When to Leave, and that was when I was living in Texas, playing a lot of country music, and that's what you hear there. And after that was the record on the major label, Mercury Records. It's called When the Night Is Through. It came out in 1998, and it was a straight-ahead rock record. It's kind of confused some of my country people in Texas. Following that, I made another left turn and put out Songs from the Six in 2001, which was solo acoustic. Actually recorded it on a cassette deck in a Motel 6. So it was about as far from the major label recording process as you could get.
I guess so.
And after that, 35, which came out in 2007, is my most recent record, and that reflects the time that I've spent in the upper Midwest in Minnesota, and again, a straight-ahead rock record with a full band.
Sounds cool to me. Maybe we'll hear one of those tunes right now on 91.3, The Summit. Mary, I'd like to know about your songwriting techniques. Where do you get your best ideas? Does the music come, or where does the music or the words come from?
You know, it's interesting. I've always been a words first person, and I've found that songwriters usually cleave into two categories: people that write the music first and the people that write the words first. For me, the words always, if I have words, I can write a song. If I have music, I just have music. But there's a lot of ways to get the dog to hunt. I was somewhat surprised to learn when the late Danny Federici was in my band that Springsteen, who I'm a big fan of, and I've studied a lot as a songwriter, is actually a music first guy. Which, given that the words are such an important part of what he does, it was surprising to me. But it just goes to show that, you know, however you get it done, and what works for you is just what works for you, and the important thing is what the end product is.
Well, let's hear one of those great tunes right now on 91.3, The Summit. Mary, I'd like to know, in the last few years, have you had any good or bad travel experiences? Either or both.
Travel experiences?
Yeah, where did you go that you really liked, or someplace that really, oh gosh, I don't want to go back?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to travel pretty widely in this line of work. I've been in all 50 states and a handful of countries in Europe, and just crisscrossing the country is wonderful in and of itself. As I said earlier, I grew up in the Northeast, which is cool, but it's it's just one part of a very large country, and having seen pretty much all of it at this point, it amazes me the breadth and depth of not only the terrain but the people and the things that, you know, the regional things that still manage to survive in this rather homogenized age. And that's probably the coolest thing about what I get to do is seeing things like that and being able to take note of the differences from region to region.
I'm going to ask you a question that our friends here, both our friends here, Brian and Mr. Jay Johnson, who puts on these concerts at his house, they know the question, and they've heard it many times, and there's some great answers. So, if you had a chance to go out in space, 2 weeks in space, what man and woman would you take? They can be alive or dead, they can be historical, musical, political, it doesn't matter. Who would you take, man and woman?
Man and woman? What do I get to do with them?
You get to play songs with them, and you get to eat with them in space, and view the sights in space, and we bring you back. We bring you plenty of food and plenty of oxygen.
Oxygen would be good.
Yeah, we have to give you something to breathe on. So who would you take?
Well, for a musical companion for 2 weeks?
Yeah, man and a woman. You get both.
Oh. Well, there's something to be said for that, I suppose. It's hard to say. I mean, you know, I usually keep myself to myself, but I'm certainly, I don't know.
Think about it.
I'm thinking about it. I've had.
Who did you mention? You mentioned Bruce Springsteen earlier. Would you take him along and try to pick his brain when you were up there?
Well, that would certainly be something I would think about.
And a female?
I've always had a lot of respect for Carol in Wonderland, and the music just pours out of her, and I really, you know, she actually grew up in Houston, and I lived there for a long time, and she was always just one step ahead of me for a long time in terms of putting a band together and playing out, and then I went ahead and did my thing with the big label, and now she's aligned with Ray Benson and has made an incredible record, and she's out, and she's just on fire. And for those of us who knew her back when she was just the most amazing person that nobody had ever heard of, we're all really just so happy to see that happen for her.
Well, I'm so excited to have you on the show, and we're going to hear more music right now. Mary, if you had any advice to give to our players that are in the Summit County area, or Cleveland, or around the world, because this program streams around the world. When you're on Just Plain Folk with a Bedtime Snack on 91.3 The Summit, you're all over the world. So tell us, what advice would you give to the young singer-songwriter, guitarists that you might help them out in their careers?
Well, the piece of advice that I always give to people is don't go into the music business. Because I know that if you're going to do it, you're going to do it anyway, and it doesn't matter what I say. And those are the people that need to be doing it. And it's a hard business to do well, and it's getting harder by the year with changes in technology and the economy and everything. And you know, it's a beautiful thing to play music, and it's a beautiful thing to play music with friends and for fun. And there's no reason that everyone shouldn't do that. And it's, you know, when you do it for a living, it's easy to lose sight of that. If you're born to the life, then again, it doesn't matter what I say. But if you're not, that shouldn't be why you do it. You know, it's like do it to have fun, and do it to play. And you know, it's 100 years ago, people bought sheet music and sat around the piano and played, and that was entertainment. And I think, ironically enough, with the internet